lot of us have been this kind of person before. Someone who is horrendously unable or having a very hard time to bear even the slightest state of discontent and uneasiness. The lack of tolerance, steadfastness, and patience in the face or occurrence of undesirable situations shatters our bubble of peace and serenity, and we seemingly can't help ourselves to the point where we start to nag and harass other individuals and entities to be responsible for our own set of miseries. Now, before I carry on, I want to remind you, gentlemen, that the scenarios and context that I'm implying with regards to this particular topic is outside both the legal and vice circumstances. Now, we complain and blame because our expectations do not meet the reality that presents itself in front of us, and we felt that we are seemingly unable to handle the weight of that gap and the personal pain and irritation caused by those unfortunate circumstances that befall us. And even if we know how to handle them, we are either too lazy, too afraid, or too mindlessly ignorant to get our own hands dirty to clean up the mess and patch our own wounds. So we desperately try to be relatable to others through venting our own feelings in order to get some sort of sympathy, along with the utmost hope of receiving some form of assistance. And at the same time, or should we fail to get the sympathy and assistance we hoped for, we search for a seemingly correlated convict to condemn in order to get their hands dirty for us instead, so that we could reclaim or restore our disillusioned sense of contentment and tranquility. The environments that we are raised and brought up in could also determine the likelihood of us being chronic complainers. People who often complain can also emerge from an environment that are either too spoiled, too protected, or too conservative. Or it can be a combination of all of them. This is because they are too accustomed to getting things, even minor ones, done for them, and having circumstances manipulated and engineered to go their way for long periods of time, to the point where the massive weight of their expectations on a lot of circumstances becomes their own slim and sensitive threshold for discontentment and dissonance. And should those circumstances go south on them, even something as small as getting struck in the toes by a furniture could send them into a frenzy. Now, to occasionally and rationally complain is not a bad thing at all. In fact, it can work as a tool for us to discover our own set of problems or other set of problems and figure out a way to fix it eventually. But if it turns chronic and frequent, and if it becomes just a ridiculous and furious rant about one's feelings of discontentment that leads to an unnecessary conduct of pointing fingers at another individual for one's own self-constructed sense of annoyance or misery, then it is without a doubt an insufferable disease that brings nothing to the table but the contagious spread of one's very own sense of indignation that one is carrying. Continuously complaining and blaming others for your own misfortunes are extremely repulsive qualities to have, especially as a man, where emotional strength, being able to handle stressful situations, and being able to harmoniously solve problems are within our own burden to perform and fulfill. These dreadful habits are extremely detrimental to a man's well-being and their own potential. Firstly, because it is an utterly and absolutely waste of time. The time that you spend complaining and blaming the unfair world and other people for your own failures, misery, and setbacks could be used to intricately work on them instead, and turn them into your own arsenal of advantages. The world is unfair, and that is just how it operates. And it is even more unfair for us men. You must accept it. Nothing can change the nexuses that this world will bring to us. Unfortunate and undesirable circumstances will eventually happen, and most of the time as men, no one will come to save you from them. People have their own priorities, and their priorities will always come first before they want to have anything to do with you. Yelling and screaming at the heavens or the ceiling of your own bedroom would not summon a guardian angel that will give you a blessing of eternal tranquility and prosperity. That is why relying on hope or faith alone won't ever be enough to get you to where you want to be, as it is an extremely delusional way to solve your problems. And pointing fingers at everyone around you will certainly not bring their judgments of you to your favor. Secondly, complaining and blaming is a way of self-sabotaging yourself of your own potential as a man. If you find yourself coming from a mindset of waiting for the right moment to take action primarily because of your seemingly unappealing circumstances to give you enough confidence or assurance, and your unfavorable social circles to give you the much-needed moral support in order to find your vocation and purpose in life, you are already in the process of setting yourself up for failure before your journey even begins. You are deliberately removing yourself from your own authority and running away from your own responsibilities. They are just silly excuses out of fear in taking actions and experiencing failures. There is no such thing as the perfect moment. In reality, if you want to find out the answers to all your problems, the best way is to go out there and seek for the answers yourself. Complaining and blaming other entities for your purposeless life will only rob you of the extent and magnitude of your potential, especially when you are still a young man, and will both hinder and eventually obstruct your progress towards competence and independence, on which every man in this world desires. Thirdly, complaining and blaming may lead you to developing an unwanted level of resentment, which is a completely unnecessary sense of pain to be left lingering within every sense of your being. Say someone is technically responsible for your misery, maybe your past lover who put you into an extremely low point physically and mentally during the relationship, and still refuse to take accountability for her actions no matter how much you called her out. What would you do then? Would you carry on to protest on why she would do such a thing to you and hoping that the universe will give you an answer? Would you keep on condemning her and pray to karma to give her a good beatdown to make you feel good about yourself? And if you are keen to do such things, is that the state of mind that you would like to have going into the future? I certainly hope not. I wouldn't want to see you gentlemen get horrifically fixated on someone or something treacherous from your past. I would much rather see you gentlemen learn the nature and the qualities of what makes and does not make a good companion. Fourth, complaining and blaming will also lead you to the eventual disappointment onto yourself and from the people around you. There is nothing more detrimental to a man than to see himself in the mirror and realizing that he had become the person he told and promised himself not to be. The damage you will inflict upon yourself will be self-evident when you finally reach the point of fatigue in trying to get others to do your own dirty work and claiming them to be responsible for your own mess without getting any meaningful and satisfying results in the end. In fact, coupled with the complete opposite and even worse results manifesting, the people around you will get tired of your own half-wittedness and will eventually leave you permanently to lick your own wounds. And finally, gentlemen, through complaining and blaming, you are unintentionally confirming and demonstrating your own weak mentality, as you are merely projecting your own incompetence and unreliableness in dealing with stressful situations. Complaining and blaming is the most definitive characteristics of a man-child. Nothing good will ever come out from chronic complaining and blaming, gentlemen. You will only add more problems to your life simply by ignorantly refusing to take the initiative to solve it yourself. People who often complain and blame are also people who rarely identify, admit, and analyze their own flaws, mistakes, and failures, because they are afraid of experiencing any dissonance in their ego investments. So they masquerade themselves as the sufferers of another entity's or individual's conducts. Now this certainly does work for women in today's feminized social order, as women, by default, are treated a whole lot more sympathetically regardless of their state and circumstances. But for us, do not ever play the victim game, gentlemen. You are literally trying to play reverse damsel in distress, which won't work and does not exist in reality. You will only turn into a disposable laughingstock should you decide to become one. Thank you for watching.